Jeremy C. Billington, friend of the miner, the mill worker, and the back alley dog, spoke at a political rally last night.
Sunday nights once slowed to opening guitar of a single television theme song. From 1959 to 1973, Bonanza invited millions to the Ponderosa, where Ben Cartwright and his sons faced danger, family, and moral choices. The series looked straightforward, but it pushed television technology, merchandising, and storytelling in unexpected ways. Behind the fences there were oddities, contradictions, and little-known secrets about cast, crew, and production. In this video, we pry open the ranch doors to reveal 20 weird facts about Bonanza that may surprise devoted viewers. Some facts are funny, some are tragic, and some reframe how the show fits into television history. Stay with us. By the end, you will not look at the Cartwrights the same way. The Cartwrights' Ponderosa became a real-world tourist attraction. What began as a painted backdrop turned into a destination. The Ponderosa was not only an on-screen home, it became a real place fans could visit, touch, and photograph. As Bonanza grew into a cultural phenomenon, producers and local entrepreneurs realized the show's most famous setting could be turned into an experience. What viewers saw as a sprawling ranch was reconstructed, expanded, and staged so visitors could walk the boardwalks, enter replica rooms, watch staged gunfights, and buy souvenir items. The attraction blurred the line between set and theme park, giving television fans an early version of what would later become franchise tourism. Turning the Ponderosa into a destination amplified Bonanza's reach far beyond broadcast slots. It created a direct line from screen to consumer, boosting merchandising and local economies. Fans who once only watched Ben Cartwright on Sunday now became participants, which deepened loyalty and turned casual viewers into devotees who returned year after year. Visualize a family road trip in the middle of the century, kids clutching lunchbox replicas, parents snapping photos on a wooden porch that matched the opening credits. For many, visiting the Ponderosa felt like stepping into the television memory they carried at home. That transformation, from fictional ranch to tourist landmark, helped codify TV as a place people could inhabit, not just watch. Pernell Roberts, Adam Cartwright, hated the show. Not every Cartwright loved the Ponderosa. Pernell Roberts, who played Adam Cartwright, often clashed with producers and openly criticized Bonanza. Adam was the eldest son, meant to be the steady voice of reason. Yet behind the camera, Roberts grew increasingly dissatisfied. He argued that the show offered little growth for his character and often dismissed its storylines as formulaic. He was outspoken about what he saw as shallow scripts, recycled themes, and a lack of authentic portrayals of frontier life. Unlike many actors who hid frustrations, Roberts took his complaints public, even during interviews. His open disdain created tension on set and with the network. By 1965, after 6 seasons, Roberts left Bonanza, a shocking move at the height of its popularity. His departure left fans confused, and producers scrambling to adjust storylines. Despite his criticism, Adam Cartwright remained one of the most beloved characters, proving that audiences connected even when the actor himself did not. Millions of viewers saw Adam Cartwright as the dependable, loyal son who anchored the family. Off-screen, Roberts could barely hide his disappointment, feeling trapped in what he saw as a paint-by-numbers Western. While his colleagues grew comfortable with fame, he pursued theater and more serious roles. For fans, the absence of Adam marked one of the earliest lessons that even in beloved TV families, not everyone wanted to stay around the fire. Michael Landon was more than just Little Joe. Michael Landon wasn't just the charming Little Joe on screen. He quietly became one of Bonanza's creative powerhouses. While audiences loved him as the spirited youngest Cartwright son, Landon's ambitions went beyond acting. He was fascinated by the mechanics of television production and began studying scripts, directing techniques, and camera work. By the mid-1960s, he was writing scripts for the show and soon moved behind the camera to direct episodes. Few actors on long-running series managed to earn that level of creative trust, but Landon's storytelling instincts were sharp and his dedication was tireless. His work behind the scenes gave Bonanza richer character arcs and more personal episodes. It also prepared him for his legendary career after the show ended. Landon went on to create and star in Little House on the Prairie and later Highway to Heaven, both series where he again held triple roles as actor, writer, and director. In many ways, Bonanza became his training ground for an empire of heartfelt American television drama. Viewers saw only little Joe galloping across Nevada's dusty trails, but off-screen, Landon was often up late revising scripts or working with cameramen to get the perfect shot. Cast members recalled how his energy seemed boundless, balancing pranks on set with the seriousness of shaping a story. That dual identity, the playful youngest Cartwright and the disciplined storyteller, helped make him one of the most influential figures in television history. The theme song originally had lyrics. The Bonanza theme song is one of the most recognizable tunes in television history, but what most people don't know is that it originally had lyrics. Jay Livingston and Ray Evans, the composers behind the catchy galloping theme, actually wrote words to accompany the melody. The idea was for the Cartwrights to sing the song in the opening credits, setting a lighthearted tone as they rode across the Ponderosa. A demo was recorded, and even Lorne Greene gave it a try. But when producers heard the final cut, they worried the lyrics sounded too corny and would undercut the show's gravitas. The version with words was quickly shelved, and the instrumental theme debuted instead. That decision may have saved Bonanza's reputation. The instrumental version became iconic, instantly recognizable, and inseparably tied to the Cartwrights' image. It also underscored the show's cinematic feel, helping it stand apart from other westerns. While theme songs with lyrics became standard later, Bonanza's wordless gallop made it timeless. For decades, the lyrical version stayed hidden, only surfacing in archival releases years later. Fans who first heard the Cartwrights singing were stunned at how awkward it sounded. Ben, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe, crooning about their ranch life while riding into the sunset. It's hard not to laugh, but it's also a glimpse of how close television history came to sounding very different. If those lyrics had aired, the show's opening might be remembered today with more giggles than awe. Bonanza was a tech pioneer, the first major TV series in color. Bonanza was the first network series broadcast entirely in color, a move that helped change television history. In the late 1950s, color television was still new, expensive, and far from mainstream. RCA, which owned NBC, needed a reason for families to invest in costly color TV sets. Their solution was to showcase a show filmed in lush outdoor landscapes, with costumes and scenery that would shine in full color. Bonanza was the perfect candidate. Starting in 1959, every episode was broadcast in color, even though most homes still only had black and white televisions. This bold decision linked Bonanza's success directly to the spread of color TV. As families slowly upgraded, Bonanza became the show that made the investment worthwhile. The green pastures of the Ponderosa, the vivid costumes of the Cartwrights, and the golden Nevada sunsets all looked spectacular compared to monochrome westerns. By the mid-1960s, color television had become standard, and Bonanza had played a huge part in pushing it into living rooms across America. The transition from gray tones to the full spectrum of the Ponderosa must have felt magical, like stepping into a new era of entertainment. Without Bonanza's role as RCA's showcase, color TV adoption might have taken years longer. In a sense, the Cartwrights didn't just ride across the screen, they rode America straight into the future of television. Hoss Cartwright was supposed to be the comic relief. At first, Hoss Cartwright wasn't written as the lovable, gentle soul we remember. He was meant to be the show's comic relief. When Bonanza began, writers leaned heavily on television formulas of the 1950s. Every family drama needed balance, and with Adam as the serious intellectual and Little Joe as the spirited youth, Hoss was drafted to provide laughs. Early scripts sometimes portrayed him as clumsy or slow-witted, designed to lighten tension rather than deepen storylines. But Dan Blocker's natural charisma changed everything. His ability to bring warmth and humanity to Hoss transformed the role beyond slapstick. Instead of being a running joke, Hoss became the emotional anchor of the series. Viewers loved his mix of physical strength and emotional vulnerability. Children in particular connected with him, and adults admired the way he embodied kindness without losing his toughness. The shift from comic relief to heart of the family added layers of depth that kept audiences invested for over a decade. Fans often recall episodes where Hoss comforted a child, protected the underdog, or wrestled with moral choices. These moments could have been lost if he had remained just a bumbling foil. Dan Blocker refused to play Hoss as anything less than human, and in doing so, he carved out one of television's most beloved characters. What started as a laugh track role became the heartbeat of the Ponderosa. Lorne Greene was Canada's voice of doom before Ben Cartwright. Long before he became America's favorite TV father, Lorne Greene was known in Canada as the chilling voice of doom. During World War II, Greene worked as a newsreader for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. His deep, resonant baritone gave weight to every broadcast. Unfortunately, the news in those days was almost always grim: casualty reports, battlefield losses, and wartime uncertainty. Listeners associated his voice so strongly with bad news that he earned the nickname Voice of Doom. While it cemented his reputation as a serious and trustworthy presence, it also cast a shadow over his early career. That very voice, however, became his ticket to television immortality. When Bonanza producers cast him as Ben Cartwright, Greene's commanding tone gave the patriarch authority and gravitas. Audiences who once linked his voice to wartime despair now heard it as a source of comfort, guidance, and stability. His transition from voice of doom to America's dad is one of the most striking career reinventions in TV history. Imagine Canadians in the 1940s huddled around radios, dreading what Greene's voice might deliver next. 2 decades later, those same tones reassured millions of families as Ben Cartwright dispensed fatherly wisdom on Sunday nights. It's a reminder that the qualities that once defined gloom could, with a shift of context, become the very reason an actor was so beloved. Greene's voice, once feared, became the warm heartbeat of the Ponderosa. Bonanza tackled social issues before television was ready. In an era when most TV westerns stuck to shootouts and cattle drives, Bonanza surprised audiences by confronting social issues that television usually avoided. The 1960s were a turbulent decade, yet television often shied away from controversy. Bonanza broke that pattern. Writers slipped in storylines that addressed racism, domestic violence, class prejudice, and even substance abuse. Episodes showed the Cartwrights defending Chinese immigrants, standing up for Native Americans, or protecting women from exploitation. These plots weren't common in primetime entertainment, especially in shows marketed as family-friendly westerns. By weaving in social themes, Bonanza gained a reputation for being more than just a frontier adventure. It showed that television could reflect real moral dilemmas and spark conversations in American homes. While not every episode was progressive by modern standards, the willingness to explore injustice set it apart from many of its contemporaries. This approach paved the way for later dramas that addressed cultural tensions more directly. One striking episode, Day of Reckoning, featured the Cartwrights defending a Native American man who married a white woman, a storyline that would have been considered risky at the time. For viewers, it wasn't just about the Wild West anymore. It was about the moral compass of modern America. Through the Cartwrights' choices, Bonanza quietly nudged audiences to reflect on their own values, proving a Western could carry more than horses and gunsmoke. It could carry meaning. Guest stars included future legends. Before they became household names, many future stars passed through the Ponderosa as guest characters. Because Bonanza ran for 14 seasons, it provided a stage for hundreds of guest actors. Many of these performers were still unknown when they appeared on the show, but would later become cultural icons. Leonard Nimoy, years before Star Trek, played everything from a Native American to a Mexican outlaw. James Coburn, later an Oscar-winning actor, also rode through Virginia City. Even actors like Charles Bronson and Bruce Dern made appearances, sharpening their craft in episodes of Bonanza. This revolving door of guest talent gave the show an unexpected role in television history. It became a training ground. Casting directors often spotted rising talent here, and the exposure helped young actors build credibility. Fans who revisit the series today often find themselves surprised, recognizing faces that would later dominate Hollywood. Bonanza inadvertently created a catalog of before-they-were-famous performances. Imagine sitting down in 1962, watching a one-off villain face down the Cartwrights, never realizing that actor would later command starships or headline major films. For audiences today, rewatching those episodes feels like discovering hidden treasure. The Ponderosa wasn't just home to the Cartwrights. It was a stepping stone for some of the biggest names in entertainment. The show boosted Nevada tourism, especially Virginia City. Bonanza didn't just transform television screens, it reshaped the real map of Nevada by turning Virginia City into a tourist magnet. The fictional setting of the Cartwright Ranch was tied closely to Virginia City, a once booming mining town. For decades, Virginia City had slipped into decline after the Silver Rush ended, but Bonanza breathed new life into it. Fans curious about the show's backdrop traveled west to see where their beloved Cartwrights supposedly lived. Local businesses capitalized on the craze, building attractions, themed shops, and guided tours. Suddenly, a fading mining town found itself on the national tourism circuit. Tourism dollars revitalized Virginia City's economy. Families came for the connection to Bonanza and stayed to explore local history. The association with the show became so strong that Nevada officials often credited Bonanza with preserving interest in the state's frontier past. For a TV series, influencing tourism on that scale was rare, but Bonanza proved television could inspire real-world journeys. While no cameras had filmed there, businesses decorated storefronts with cowboy motifs, and souvenirs lined shelves. Visitors left believing they had stepped into Cartwright country. In truth, the town's revival was less about silver and more about Sunday night television magic, proof that the Ponderosa reached far beyond the screen. Bonanza had merchandise galore, lunchboxes, board games, and more. Before modern franchises like Star Wars turned merchandise into an empire, Bonanza was already filling homes with branded collectibles. By the mid-1960s, the show's popularity was so strong that NBC and its partners launched a flood of products. Kids could carry Bonanza lunchboxes to school, play Bonanza board games with family, and even buy toy rifles and six-shooters modeled after the ones used on the show. There were comic books, trading cards, puzzles, and even Halloween costumes. For many fans, owning a piece of Bonanza meant keeping a slice of the Ponderosa alive in their everyday lives. This merchandising boom made Bonanza one of the earliest examples of how a television series could expand into consumer culture. It set a precedent for later shows and films, proving that characters and settings could generate revenue beyond the screen. More importantly, the merchandise deepened fan loyalty. Children who grew up with Bonanza toys often carried their affection for the series well into adulthood. At recess, friends would trade Bonanza cards like prized treasures, while families gathered around the dining table to play the branded board game. These items weren't just toys, they were cultural artifacts that tied fans directly to the adventures of the Cartwrights. Long before the word fandom became common, Bonanza had already built one. Michael Landon wrote and directed episodes. Michael Landon wasn't just Little Joe Cartwright in front of the camera. He also shaped Bonanza from behind it as a talented writer and director. As the show matured in the 1960s, Landon pushed to expand his creative role. He began writing scripts for episodes, often infusing them with heartfelt themes about family, morality, and resilience. His first writing credit came in 1962 with the episode The Gamble. He didn't stop there. Over the years, Landon penned more than 20 episodes and directed several others. His storytelling instincts gave the show added emotional depth and sometimes explored more sensitive topics, from prejudice to justice to personal loss. This behind-the-scenes work honed skills that would define Landon's career after Bonanza. When the series ended, he went on to create and star in Little House on the Prairie and later Highway to Heaven, both of which carried his distinct stamp of heartfelt, moral-centered storytelling. Landon's evolution on Bonanza was essentially a training ground for his future as one of television's most beloved creators. For Bonanza itself, his contributions gave the series a creative spark in later seasons, keeping the characters emotionally grounded while the plots sometimes leaned into action or spectacle. Imagine Landon finishing a long day on set, trading his cowboy hat for a stack of script notes. The next morning, instead of only saddling up as Little Joe, he's calling camera angles, guiding fellow actors, and shaping how the episode unfolds. For fans who only knew him as the lively youngest Cartwright, it's surprising to learn how much of the show's spirit came directly from Landon's own pen. Michael Landon wore platform shoes to appear taller. Michael Landon became a household name thanks to his role as Little Joe Cartwright, the spirited and often hot-headed youngest son on Bonanza. But behind the scenes, Landon faced a challenge that had little to do with acting: his height. Standing at around 5'9", he wasn't particularly short, but compared to his co-stars, he looked noticeably smaller. Dan Blocker, who played Hoss, towered at 6'4", while Lorne Greene, as Patriarch Ben Cartwright, also stood tall at over 6 feet. In group scenes, Landon sometimes looked like the odd man out. To even the playing field, Landon frequently wore platform shoes or lifts that added extra inches to his stature. These weren't dramatic stilts, but just enough to balance out the family dynamic visually. Hollywood has long used tricks like apple boxes, camera angles, and shoe lifts to give actors a screen presence that doesn't always match real-life proportions, and Bonanza was no exception. What's interesting is how meticulous Landon was about his appearance. Beyond his footwear, he controlled everything from his hairstyle to his wardrobe choices, carefully curating the image of Little Joe as a rugged, desirable character. His determination paid off. Little Joe became one of the most beloved figures in the series, especially among younger audiences and female fans. So while fans adored his energy, charm, and emotional storylines, they might never have realized that part of Little Joe's confidence came from a few hidden inches under his boots. Cast members used wigs, except Landon. The Wild West was full of dust, dirt, and long rides on horseback, but on the set of Bonanza, the biggest concern was often hair. Television is a visual medium, and appearances were carefully managed. While many of the actors portraying the Cartwrights looked natural on screen, a surprising number of them relied on wigs or hairpieces to maintain continuity. Lorne Greene, who played family patriarch Ben Cartwright, wore a toupee during most of the show's run. By the early 1960s, he had already experienced significant hair loss, and producers wanted him to look every bit the strong, commanding head of the Cartwright clan. Similarly, Pernell Roberts, Adam, and Dan Blocker, Hoss, used hairpieces at various points to maintain a consistent look that matched the rugged Western aesthetic. Even recurring characters and guest stars often wore wigs to fit their roles. The one exception among the main cast? Michael Landon. Landon prided himself on his naturally thick head of hair, which he sometimes dyed or styled, but never needed to replace with a wig. Ironically, as his co-stars aged visibly across the series' 14 seasons, Landon seemed to defy time. His youthful look helped cement Little Joe as the eternally charming younger brother. The use of wigs might sound trivial, but it points to how television production balances reality with illusion. Hair continuity kept the show's family dynamic believable and timeless. Without it, audiences might have noticed age and stress far more quickly in a series that ran for over a decade. The cast's credits order was rotated to be fair. One of the subtler but more unusual details of Bonanza lies in its opening credits. Most television shows settle on a fixed order for their stars, giving top billing to the lead actor. But on Bonanza, things worked differently. The producers deliberately rotated the order in which the Cartwrights' names appeared in the credits. At first glance, this might not seem like a big deal, but within Hollywood, billing order has always been a sensitive issue. It affects how audiences perceive star importance and can even influence an actor's salary negotiations. For Bonanza, the 4 main actors, Lorne Greene, Ben, Pernell Roberts, Adam, Dan Blocker, Hoss, and Michael Landon, Little Joe, were all central to the show's identity. To avoid conflict, the show's producers made the unusual decision to rotate billing. This meant that across episodes, each actor had a chance to appear first, second, third, or fourth in the credits. It was an egalitarian move that kept peace among the cast, while also emphasizing the family dynamic at the heart of the story. No single Cartwright was positioned as the true star of the show. They were all vital parts of the whole. In retrospect, this system probably helped Bonanza avoid the ego battles that plagued many other long-running series. It reflected the cooperative spirit the show tried to project both on-screen and off. And for fans rewatching episodes today, it's a fun little quirk to notice. Even in the credits, Bonanza valued fairness among its family. Visible crew and camera equipment mistakes. On more than one occasion in Bonanza, film mistakes involving visible crew members or modern equipment slipped into scenes. For example, in one episode, a boom mic can be seen above the screen while characters converse, and in another, a rubber tire or parts of modern lighting rigs are visibly reflected in surfaces or seen in the background during what should be period-appropriate scenes. These mistakes are small, but to careful eyes, they break the immersive illusion of the Old West. They also highlight the logistical challenges of shooting outdoor sequences, using sound stages, or integrating rear projection and backdrops. Because shooting schedules were tight and budgets had constraints, productions often reused sets, stock footage, and required precision in hiding modern artifacts. Yet, sometimes reflections, shadows, or stray bits of set gear couldn't be hidden. Even lead actors weren't immune. In many cases, scenes had to be adjusted or refilmed after such goofs were spotted. Fans of Bonanza often point these out with affection rather than criticism. These goofs become part of the show's charm, a reminder that despite its polished production, it was still created by people working under pressure. Bonanza spawned real-life steakhouse chains that merged. Beyond the screen, Bonanza inspired two competing steakhouse restaurant chains, Bonanza and Ponderosa. Over time, these chains merged under a single ownership. Interestingly, Dan Blocker, Hoss, was involved in promotional activities and public appearances for one chain. He sometimes appeared in commercials or events in character, helping connect the branding to the show. It's odd to imagine that your favorite Western TV show not only entertained, but literally served you steak under its name. The imagery and branding, ranch-style decor, Western motifs, mirrored the show's rustic appeal. For fans, going to a Ponderosa restaurant felt like stepping into the world of Bonanza. Even decades after the show ended, these restaurant chains continued to leverage the name recognition. While the chains are now fully commercial entities rather than show tie-ins, their origin offers a weird crossover between entertainment and consumer lifestyle. Dan Blocker thought his Bonanza paycheck was absolutely immoral. Even though he was one of the stars of Bonanza, Dan Blocker felt uneasy about how much he earned. In a later interview, Blocker referred to his paycheck as absolutely immoral, arguing that teachers and others who work harder for less deserve more recognition. Despite being paid well by TV standards, Blocker felt a mismatch between fame, wealth, and societal value. Part of this stemmed from the contrast between his previous life, before acting, and seeing how ordinary people lived. This candid statement revealed both his humility and his ongoing struggles with the moral implications of celebrity compensation. It's a rare moment of self-reflection from someone playing a character as commanding as Hoss. Some Virginia City scenes were Hollywood illusions. Although Bonanza is famously set in Virginia City, Nevada, a lot of what viewers saw was manufactured. Many of the opening shots, town streets, exteriors, and vistas were built on or filmed at studio lots in California, Paramount backlots, etc., not in the real Virginia City. The show used mock-ups, painted backdrops, shipped in trees like Ponderosa pines, and created facades designed to fool the eye. Occasionally, outdoor location shoots near Lake Tahoe or other locations provided authenticity, but much of the day-to-day visuals were Hollywood illusion. This reflects how much effort went into creating realism, despite logistical constraints. Michael Landon appeared in almost every episode. Michael Landon, Little Joe Cartwright, holds a near record for consistency. He appeared in almost all episodes of Bonanza. Out of the 431 aired episodes, he is credited in 416, meaning there were only about 14 episodes in which he did not appear. That's exceptional for a long-running show with a large cast and frequent guest stars. It meant that Landon was very often present in the core narrative, emotionally and visually anchoring many story arcs. His frequent screen time reinforced Little Joe's centrality and helped maintain continuity even through cast changes or production challenges. From its pioneering use of color to the unforgettable characters who became household names, Bonanza was more than just a television show. It was a cultural landmark. Its stories of family, justice, and resilience still resonate today, reminding us why it remains one of TV's all-time classics. If you enjoyed these weird facts, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more surprising stories from television's golden age. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.